But yeah, like I was saying, we're going to transition to baseball news. A little bit different. Like, I know Def usually talks through some MLB news, and there is some MLB news to talk about. But honestly, the first thing on the list, like, I don't know, I'll let you guys talk about it. But Prep Baseball Taiwan, or International, we had our first event in Taiwan this past weekend, and it looked awesome from afar on Twitter. So I'll let you guys kind of open the floor here.
Tyler, what do you have on it? It looks like you're getting ready to speak up. I feel like I'm an outsider here. I'm so locked in and focused on Illinois and Wisconsin. And I try to keep my finger on everything that's going on, but there's a lot of different tentacles to our company, and it just seems like things keep sprouting up and happening at a very, very fast rate. So I did catch wind of this. I think it's extremely cool what's going on, and it looked like a very successful event. But I'll turn it over to you guys because I know you guys had at least some information you were collecting from that.
Yeah, no, it looked really cool. Again, from the outside looking in, I think, again, we've touched on this before, but just the way, our president, Sean Duncan, continues to elevate this company. Like now we're international now. Obviously, if you don't count Canada, we've had Canada for a while, but no, I think it's really cool. I know I saw there were, a few 90-mile-an-hour arms that were at that thing too. So, but no, there's baseball all over the world. So I think the more we can continue to find and evaluate the prospects that are all over the world, all over the globe, it's a really cool thing.
And yeah, I know our Alabama director, David Sharp, went out there, and he's been somebody that's been involved with Team USA. I want to say at the 12U level and potentially different levels as well. But David Sharp's one of the best guys in our business. He does an outstanding job down there in Alabama, and went over there. And Gav, you were kind of, somebody was talking about it, how he's talking to the players, but then there's the translator, the interpreter right there, and that's just a
Yeah,
different dynamic that I
yeah.
have no clue kind of how to go about.
And actually, one thing that I was kind of thinking about when we were talking about this and how cool it is that aside from obviously having the event there is cool, but they had over 100 players register, and the fact that, and I guess another side note to that, I saw on Slack this morning, uh, Les Lukács, I think it's how you say his name. He's the California State
Yeah,
Director. Is that
Lukács. Yeah, Les
Lukács?
Lukács.
He was saying that they have at their preseason All State kids from Japan that come to their event, and I don't know if it's a ton. It might just be a couple, but I just think it's super cool because, like, I guess personally, I never realized like potentially how big of a reach kind of that we have, that people know about us, and that internationally, people know what prep baseball is. Like, that's just super cool personally to see from an employee standpoint. Like, it's just awesome.
And hopefully we can continue to be that vehicle, for these players, that medium, that somebody in Australia, Taiwan, Japan, Dominican Republic, can hopefully use our database and use the systems we have in place to have a profile, to have all their data, to be, the one-stop shop for not only just players in the United States, Canada, but maybe some other countries here as we branch out. And Pete, I don't know if you had anything to add as well.
Well, no, that's like what I was going to say. I'm looking at the Prep Baseball International Twitter right now, and they put out a poll on where they should go next. So, I mean, it looks like they're already thinking about the future. We got Japan on here, Venezuela, Australia. I'm curious, like, are there any other, like, in these countries, is there anything like us there, And it's like, because I really don't know. So it's cool to
I don't
see
know
that
as
we're,
well.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool to see that we're getting over there and hopefully helping kids out. But yeah, I did not know that Bless was getting kids all the way from Japan and Cali. That's pretty wild to me.
Yeah,
But
and it's
really
just
cool.
cool, like, that
Yeah.
we could potentially, like, these kids come to an event and it helps them potentially get to a college or university here in the states. Like, that's, I would think, super beneficial for coaches, and it makes it maybe a little bit easier on them to try and recruit internationally. I'm not entirely sure how all that stuff works, but that it's pretty unique and pretty cool. But I think now, like, the pro case here, coming back to Illinois specifically, Drew, our pro case has, this is our third year doing it, and it's proved to be pretty successful, I would say. In the past, we've had a couple guys get drafted that have gone to that event, and then this year it looks like we have some really high level talent coming as well.
Yeah, I'm fired up for the pro case as always. It kicks off our winter events. So there's a number of different ways you could look kind of at the pro case. One thing that is really important to me is running it before the Super 60. We are here in Illinois. You know, the Super 60 is at the max the week before the Super Bowl. Um, with being here in Illinois, like we're in a unique situation. If there's a late drop, if somebody has trouble with a flight for the Super 60, if somebody gets hurt, you know, we can call on somebody and be like, hey, come to the max on Sunday. And, you know, if you're in Illinois and you get an invite to the Super 60, that's one you really don't want to miss. So we try to run the pro case a couple days before the Super 60 to give these players not only an opportunity to show well in front of pro scouts. We don't have it, you know, as an 80, 100 kid event. We really, really are strict with the invites. We want quality over quantity. And we've done that in the last couple of years. Last year, we had a great showing of pro scouts. But the reason I say that about the Super 60 is the first year we ran it, like Cal Sefcik, absolutely put on a show in BP at the pro case, earned himself an invite to the Super 60. Last year, Aiden Hayes came out and threw one of the more impressive bullpens I've seen in a while, earned himself an invite to the Super 60. There were conversations on a bunch of other guys. I know Ethan Eberle was a guy that showed really, really well last year. Really high on him, left-handed arm out of Normal Community now at Louisville. But there's been a number of great showings. And then just looking at this year, like we just posted the event, we just sent out invites, and we are getting some really good responses. CJ DeKinga, Manuka, infielder, all kinds of upside, all kinds of things to like. He's one that just registered. Enzo Infelice, I think he's one of the better right-handed bats in the Midwest. When you talk about power, hit, you know, just being polished and just having that hit tool, I think Enzo's right up there. And there's a number of other guys that I could list off, but we're running it during the week. I want to make sure I have the day right. It is going to be on Wednesday, January 29th. So just a couple days before that Super 60. But if you have been invited to that, not sure if you want to come or whatever it may be, like it's going to be a really good event. It's way more personal than some of the other events. Like we try to give hitters multiple rounds. We try to get in there. We try to let you guys kind of, you know, even mingle with the pro scouts if you want, per se. But excited about that. I'm sure I missed on some things. If anybody else wants to add on.
Well, I was going to say the very first pro case I was a part of was actually at the Pullman Center. And Victor Izquierdo popped and got an invite to the Super 60. But it's just been really cool to see like the evolution of it. Because that was the first time I think we did it at the Pullman Center, Drew. Like that was
I
the
think
first.
you're right, and this actually would be the fourth year,
Yeah.
if I'm thinking about it correct. It's the third year doing it at the Rhino Academy. But you are correct. Yeah, Izquierdo, man, that's an impressive human being right there.
Yeah, for sure. But I just remember like, I mean, I'm not even ashamed to say it. We had one pro guy show up and we're like, all right, well, it's the first time we've done it. One scout here. Whatever. Like the kids are here to get like the personal feel and like multiple rounds of BP, like all just their numbers updated, all that. And then last year we had almost 20 guys, scouts there. So it's just cool to see the evolution of it. And hopefully it just keeps getting elevated with the talent that we have rolling through the state here.
And I don't even think I mentioned, like last year, you know, I mentioned these guys getting invited to the Super 60, but we have Jude Warwick at the event. Downers Grove North, you know, to me, he was, shoot, I don't even know where he finished in the final rankings. And it's one of the reasons we harp on, like, hey, the rankings is just a number. Like, don't let it dictate to you. Like, we're one company, but he was probably a top 30 prospect. He was not a top 10 prospect. But a left-handed hitting infielder from Downers Grove North that we had seen a lot. We really liked it, liked the upside. Thought the kid had a really, really bright future, but he comes to the pro case, you know, fast forward then 7 months and he's drafted by the Detroit Tigers. Maybe he would have been seen anyway. Like he went to Downers Grove North, which is where Jimmy Janicki went. And Jimmy, I mean, he was on a ton of pro scouts radar as well, before he decided to go to Troy, but awesome to see Jude Warwick last year. And then the year before that, one of the best bats we saw at our pro case was Jake Seitel out of St. Charles East. He was committed to Illinois, and he gets drafted, coming off that event. So seeing the track record of that kind of building up with some draft picks, and I'm sure there's going to be future draft picks that were at the pro case that will just take a few more years to kind of get to that point. But yeah, excited about just kind of the early registrations and the way this year's event is shaping up already.
Yeah, and the Super 60 and like the future games are obviously like the pinnacle kind of national events, and obviously the All American game now too. But I think with that, I remember going to my first Super 60 2 years ago and walking in, and there's so many scouts. Like, it was insane. You go to the future games, my first one. Everyone's like, oh, that's awesome. There's so many coaches every school. You go there, and no one's kidding. Like, it is insane how many people are there. And then kind of now in Illinois, we're having our pro case. And from the first one that I've gone to last year and hopefully this year too, like the amount of scouts that have continued to more and more come. And then at the state games, same thing. Each year that we've done it, more and more and more coaches are at the event. It's super, super cool to see because that's what it's about. It's about the kids getting recruited, being evaluated by these pro teams, and it's just the evolution, like you guys said, is just super cool to see. Yeah,
I love it too because I'm not sitting here saying, hey, if we have 30 guys come to the pro case, every guy's going to get drafted. But these are guys that we think have tools or have done something that we think maybe a pro scout would be interested in seeing. And whether they're a draft ready guy now, or if it's, hey, I really like this guy. He's going to the University of Illinois. It's my area as a pro scout. Like, I'm going to do my research now and get a report on him in high school. And then I'm also now going to track him at Illinois or wherever he's going, a Midwest school. Or maybe he's going out west and it's, hey, I need to, send this report to my guy that covers the state out west so he knows who this guy is coming in there as a freshman. There's a whole lot of like different reasons why it's really beneficial, but to me, just it's kind of a thank you too to these seniors as they've gone through the prep baseball report ranks over the first few years of their high school career, and now they're almost all the pro case guys are committed, not all of them, but it's like, hey, you've done all this, you've come to a future games or a state games or whatever it may be. Of course you want to come to the Super 60. So do so many good players from across the country. And the Super 60 has become so difficult to get an invite to versus what it was 10 years ago, 8 years ago when I started, and there were only 8 prep baseball states around the country. I mean, now we're in every state. We're pulling guys from Florida, Georgia, Texas. So it limits how many Illinois guys can go. Back in the day, man, it would be full of Illinois guys. And that's just not the case anymore. And that's okay. And that's what spurred us to create the pro case in the winter. And there's going to be plenty of draft pro worthy guys that don't have the opportunity to get to go to the Super 60 that deserve an opportunity to get in front of schools, or not in front of schools, but in front of pro scouts at the pro case. So sorry for going so long-winded into that, Gavin, but I love that event. And like I said, it kicks off a busy winter for us, but it's always high-level players. It's quality over quantity, and can't wait to see what this year is all about.
And then one of our partners is D1 Baseball, and I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago recently, they had tweeted out that an Illinois prep is kind of looking for another good season here for Arkansas Pine Bluff. So Drew, I don't know, you have some maybe more backstory on this, and it kind of coincides with some of our rankings conversations that we've had. But Gavin Terry, he was from Brooks College Prep, went to South Suburban Junior College. So Drew, I'll kind of give you the floor with him.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Like, I think he was a 2020 grad, so he also kind of had that tough spring to where COVID hit and he didn't have a spring season. So we may have not had a ton on him. Just looking back on his profile, we had 2 videos from showcases in his profile. I don't know how much we got to see him in game, but he was a very low rank in the class. And we see this happen a lot. We don't want it to happen all the time because then maybe we're not on the right guys all the time. But there are going to be guys that just get way better, or maybe we had the wrong take on him. And I don't know what the situation was here at Gavin Terry, but you love to see a former Illinois product succeeding at the college level. And you go back and you watch his video, and man, it's a loose, whippy left-handed swing. He looks like an athlete. Really, really liked the video after going back and watching it again. And then to see that he's making waves and D1 Baseball's reporting on him, which I think is another kind of aspect to what you're bringing up here, is we're trying to elevate our coverage in every area possible, like with what we do. And with the draft, we are trying to become the experts with the draft. And by doing so, we've partnered with D1 Baseball. And they're going to be all over, all of these high-level Division One prospects from across the country that are going to warrant being a draft prospect. And with what we do at the high school level, with what we're doing at the junior college level, like we are trying to hit all of the areas that players come from that can be on a draft list. And for them to do a little article on Gavin Terry, somebody that if they wouldn't have done that article, I wouldn't have known what he was doing. And the fact that we're partners with them, I don't know. I love to see it. And I think it's so important that players realize too, like Gavin Terry graduated in 2020, but he's not forgotten from where I sit from and like from within our company. Like we are going to continue to track them with what D1 Baseball does. Man, if they're a good player at the Division 1 level, like they're going to continue to kind of provide content on them and put them on these draft lists and let you know who these guys are that are succeeding at the college level, because really that's what it's all about. It's not how good you are in high school, it's like, can you leave high school and succeed at that next level? And Gavin Terry clearly took a route that went junior college to get him to where he needed to get to, and now he's in a good spot and he's succeeding. He's clearly at a quality fit for him. So I don't know if anybody else has anything on that, but that's what I see. And that's what I love, getting these D1 reports and seeing a guy like Gavin Terry. I was like, no way, like Brooks College prep, 2020 grad, like just really cool. So wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, and Drew, I don't think I mentioned it, and I'm not. I don't think you did either. But he hit last season for Arkansas Pine Bluff. He hit 336 and had a 419 on base percentage. And then they also had mentioned that he's a 6'5" runner, and he's likely going to be in their leadoff spot for them this year. So that's just, yeah, like you said, Drew, really cool to see, and we're always rooting for those Illinois guys to continue to keep getting better and better. So, Tyler, this is kind of the spot that we talked about that we still have some MLB news here, and it's a big one. So Def, I'll turn this over to you.
Yeah, I kind of teased it last week that, hey, winter meetings were starting up this week and there might be some big-time stuff going down. And Juan Soto finally came off the board last night. Biggest contract ever given out in pro sports history. Obviously, that used to belong to Shohei Ohtani after last offseason. But, yeah, he signs a 15-year, $765 million contract with the New York Mets. So, yeah, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, wow, I wish I had that type of money. So, but no, I mean, it's a big deal because this kind of now allows free agency to actually start for a lot of these teams, because a lot of those bigger market teams were all in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. So now that Juan Soto's off the board, those teams can now start turning their attentions elsewhere, which should make this week pretty active at the winter meetings. I know you three are probably hoping the Cubs are pretty active. I know I'm hoping the Reds are going to do some stuff this week. So we'll see. Maybe next week we're going to be having a lot more to talk about there.
You mentioned the Cubs. I'm just in it for let's get Chicago sports teams better. I don't care if it's the White Sox, the Cubs, the Bulls, the Blackhawks just fired their coach. The Bears obviously fired their coach, so let's get some positivity flowing through Chicagoland right now. Man, I'd love to see the White Sox add a piece or something. I know there's been trade talks with Crochet and whatnot, but you mentioned that contract and it's mind-boggling. I don't even know how to comprehend that, but I think I sit back and I look at it, and I look at it from just the game of baseball standpoint. And if you're a kid coming up in this world and picking sports that you're really good at, I mean, there may not be a better sport when it comes to contracts than baseball. I know basketball, NBA has phenomenal contracts as well. It's long been that football is like one of the worst, just with the injury risk and the lack of guaranteed money and salary caps and all that kind of stuff. But baseball, to see that kind of money getting thrown around in this game, it tells me that the game has to be healthy. You're not going to be paying these athletes that kind of money if the game's not healthy. Now there's certain rules they're bringing up that I think need to need to maybe be looked at, which could make the game very interesting. But no, just from a financial standpoint, that is astounding. And I mean,
And Drew,
as
didn't you?
as a fellow player, like in the major leagues, you have to be applauding Soto to put a contract out there to help your market. But yeah, go ahead, Gavin.
And didn't you say that you saw somewhere that they were breaking down the contract and it's like $5,000 a second or something crazy like that he was making?
Yeah, and I don't know the exact number, and if it's during games that he's playing, he's
Yeah,
making that per second, or if it's just 365 every day of the year. I'm not totally sure. I'd have to do the math on
yeah,
that myself, but I mean, it's a crazy
crazy.
number. It was something. I'm a golf fan, and it was something similar to Scotty Scheffler. And what he did on the PGA Tour this last year and the amount of money he made, it was like every swing he took was a certain amount of money. And it's like, it's just, I mean, he didn't make a lot of swings because the
Yeah.
least amount of swings you make in golf, the better. But no, it's crazy what sports can do, and the finances that go into sports and what these guys are pulling in.
Well, I want to
And
hop in here one last time. Sorry, Gav, but like I'm just sitting here thinking, like we were talking a little bit earlier about Prep Baseball International. Well, the two highest paid MLB players, like Shohei's from Japan, and now Juan Soto's from the Dominican Republic. So I think there's a cool little nugget there too, which again, the more we can get out and see more of these players across the globe, like obviously it's a big deal. Like in baseball players come in all shapes and sizes and from every part of the world. So
yeah, that's a great call out. But what I wanted to mention is that I kind of forgot to talk about it with our D1 baseball partnership. Like one thing that we kind of talked about just behind the scenes is in the spring trying to utilize that to within our podcast talk more about some college, like local Illinois college baseball teams, whether it is Division 1 or Division 2, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like just trying to spread some love to those former players like a Gavin Terry that are doing well collegiately, and so that's kind of something where we've talked about. So we're going to utilize our partnership with D1 Baseball to try and do that this spring, on top of all of our coverage for the high school baseball teams throughout the state as well.